Again, folks, doing another live stream today. Why not, right? Wait for some fellows to jump in, or they can watch it later. Either way is good. But I'm going to do a little quick stream on OBS, Open Broadcaster. And it's what I use to do my live streaming and also to record my videos. You can use this to record your videos. Not necessarily edit your videos. I use, what's it called? Power Director. To actually edit videos, have separate tracks, add music to things and sound effects. I use Power Director for that, and that's what I mean by editing. But OBS, Open Broadcaster Studio, is what I use to actually record the videos themselves. It gives me total control of my camera, my mics, and everything. And I also use it to live stream. You can do both with OBS. And we'll wait a little bit here, see who jumps in the chat. Just a little bit. Or jumps in on the stream. But I'm going to give you kind of a quick rundown on how I use it, how it works, and how you can get it, set it up. Just the basics. It's really, really useful. And it doesn't drain your system. It's it doesn't use a lot of resources from your laptop or your computer. That's one of the high points of it. And I do know some people have said, "Oh my God, it's too complex. It's complicated." And it's not. That's ridiculous. When I first started looking into live streaming and finding a video recorder, I looked at XSplit, and that's another good option. Except you got to pay for it. The free version limits you to 720p with your camera, and I had a much more powerful camera than that, so I didn't want to pay for it. And when I got OBS, after fiddling with XSplit, it's pretty much the same thing. I imagine most streaming software works the same. There's basically the concept of scenes and sources. A scene being like, oh, that's your intro, and then you go into the actual program. That would be a separate scene, and then maybe you got an ending scene. Those are all separate scenes. And what you do is you add sources to each scene. And when I say sources, I mean things like pictures. That's a source. Music. That's a separate source. And so on and so forth. So that's all it is just scenes made up of a bunch of sources, like pictures and things you want to show in that scene. That's all it is. That's the basic concept with scenes and sources. And again, folks, I got 3 viewers at the moment. I got to talk a little bit about OBS, how you can get it and install it and set it up and what it's used for. Once again, this is not a demanding program. It's not a complicated program. It doesn't use a lot of resources on your computer, so you can have it going and a ton of other things as well. And your computer shouldn't slow down. It's really useful. Let's see who jumps in the chat. I'll wait a little bit, and then we'll get to the goodies of the show. I love it. I use it exclusively for recording my videos and streams. But again, I don't use it to actually edit my videos. That's what I use Power Director for. I mean, you can't really edit videos with OBS. Let me turn my music down a little bit. It's primarily for recording and live streaming. I'm using it right now, actually. Now, when I show you this, when I show you OBS, you might get a funky look to it. I'll keep the screen black, so you won't get that. It should work. I'll wait a little bit here. All right, what's that dilly-dally? Let's go into this. Let me see here. I'm going to go to a black screen and show you OBS. Make sure this works. So let's see if this pops up. You should get a black screen. I'm watching my other laptop. Yeah. Except you can't see OBS. I've got to have the display going. All right, well, all right. I guess I'm going to have to let it get funky because I have to share the display. All right, so there it is. Let me turn off Studio. Where is it? Studio mode. Let's turn off Studio mode. It's pretty whack. But anyway, the first thing you want to do, let's get out of this and go to the website. The first thing you want to do is do a search, or you could just plug it in. I did a search. I went and I used Bing. You can use Google. Just put in OBS Studio, and here's the source for it right here. It's obsproject.com. This is where you get it. This is the software. So we're going to click that, and here you go. This is the site you'll get, OBS Studio. Now, take note that there is a different version of OBS, which is primarily for gamers. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe it's OBS Game Studio or something. I don't remember. But what you want to look for, and this link will take you to it, if you put in a search for OBS Studio, is just that. You want OBS Studio, Open Broadcaster Software. And you have several links here to get for the platform that you're using, like Windows. There you go. That's the one you would click. It's free and it's open source. Again, for video recording and live streaming. And this is where you get it. Now, I'm not going to download it here because it's all pretty much self-explanatory. There's an option here to contribute to it, of course. If you have any questions about it, there's a forum as well. But what you're going to do is you're going to click this and you're going to download it. And if you got Windows 7 through 10, you should have no problem running OBS Studio. And as soon as it loads, start it up. And that's when you'll get this program. Of course, this looks pretty funky at the moment, which is okay. It's because I'm sharing my display. That's the only reason this is coming up. But normally you'll just see this first window in the middle of your screen. Now, I also have mine set to dark mode, so everything's gray and black. It's not white. You can change that in your settings. It's just your personal preference. But this is what it looks like. And as soon as you install it, you're going to be asked to run, you're going to have the option of running the wizard. It's basically a setup wizard. And as soon as it's installed, you'll get that option. And my recommendation is, since you're a first-time user, go ahead and use it. Let it run the user or the wizard. And basically what that does is it'll set it up according to your hardware. What works best for you. Of course, it's only approximate. It's not going to be precise. And later on down the road, you can fine-tune your settings. And maybe I'll make a video on showing you my settings that I use, like for my audio and what kind of filters I use. Also my video settings, how to set up your camera to broadcast and record in, say, 1080p as opposed to 720p. 1080p being much better. 720 being the minimum. But go ahead and run the wizard. Let it set it all up for you. And once that's complete, you're all good to go. And you'll get this main screen. And again, in the center, I know it looks freaky right now at the moment, but essentially you only see the first frame. And it'll be sitting here in the center of the screen. That's what you're going to be broadcasting when you're live streaming. It's going to show you what you're going to be live streaming in this screen, or what you're recording, because you can use this for video recording. Now, I'm not going to go into details on how you do all that, or I'm not going to go into the settings either, but I will show you a few things just to give you a basic concept of how it works. It's really simple. Now, let's pay attention to the bottom of the screen down here. Far to the left, we have your scenes. This is basically all your scenes that you're going to be using in your recording or your live broadcast. And when you want to add a scene, these are by default, I think, empty, or it might say scene 1 or something like that. You could change the names of these by right-clicking on it. You can rename it to whatever you want, like opening scene. And when you're done, that will be what everyone will be seeing. Let me get back here again. Sorry about that. And the way you add scenes and delete them, you'll see down here in the bottom, you got a plus symbol, you got a minus symbol. And they are what they are. This adds a new scene, and you can name it whatever you want. It'll pop up like this little small box here. You can name it what you want. This by default is scene 3. You click OK, and boom. Let me get back there. There's scene 3 added to your options. You can also delete scenes by hitting the minus. Just click on the scene and then hit the negative button or the minus button, and so on and so forth. That's all that is. Now, once you have a scene, like let's say we're in scene 1, click on it, and then go over here to the next area, which is called sources. And this is where you can add all kinds of sources like pictures, images, sound files. And the way you do that is the same way. Right underneath is this plus and minus sign. This is where you remove sources or add a source. If I wanted to add a source, here's what pops up. You get this menu. You get a Windows capture that literally captures a specific window, and you can resize it and reshape it and select specific areas of a window. Like if you wanted to capture part of your browser, you could do that with a Windows capture. Above that is video capture device. That's where you add a camera to your scene. Say you have 2 cameras. One is a C922 Logitech, and another one is your laptop. Those are separate sources that you can add to the scene. If I wanted to add my Logitech camera, I would click Video Capture Device, and I could name it whatever I want. If it's already being used somewhere in this area here, as in another scene, it will be listed here under Add Existing. But in this case, I would add it as a new one, and I'd probably name it C922 webcam or something. And once that's okay, it'll add that device in this area. What else we got here? There's text. That's where you can literally add text lines and that sort of thing. Like, let's click it and see. I could add, let's call it that. We'll let it be default. It pops up this window. Here's where you can add whatever kind of text you want. You could control the font sizes, colors, borders of the text, whatever you want. Let's add that. And there it is. It showed up under our sources. And if I click it, well, you can't really see it in here because it's, where is it? It's way up top here. Let me make it bigger. And there it is. Now again, this looks funky because I'm showing the same screen. But this gives you an idea. This is what the viewer will see. And you can move it around. You could resize it to whatever shape you want. Not shape, but whatever size you want, as you can see. But yeah, and if you want to get rid of that, you just click on it, and then hit the minus symbol. Boom. And yes, get rid of it. Boom, it's gone. Boy, that looks pretty cool the way that shows up on there. Infinity. Pretty dastardly. So that's what this is. You basically are adding sources to each separate scene that you have over here. And what other options do we got here? Well, we've got a media source, which is like a video. You can play a video with sound and stuff going on. An image slideshow, where you just pick a folder that's full of pictures you want to show off. And you'll have the option of timing how long each picture shows and how it fades into the next one and so on. Image is literally an image from your computer. If you want to put up an image that you made or a picture you took of a battle scene or whatever, you can add that. Game capture is for games that you're playing on your PC. You can use game capture for that, or you could also use Windows capture for that, but I'm not going to go into that. display capture, which is what I'm using right now to show you my whatever's on my computer laptop. Whatever I'm looking at is what you guys are seeing. You got color source, you've got browser, you've got audio output capture and audio input capture. So you can see there's all kinds of things here you can do. And you basically are adding things to each scene. Just click on the scene and add all kinds of stuff to it, resize them, reposition them. And remember, this big screen in the front that looks funky right now, but it won't when you're using it. This big screen area, this is what the viewer will see or will show up on your recording when you hit record. That's what this area shows you. It's like your work pad, your workspace. And so that's what that is. So scenes, sources. Now in the middle, any kind of audio devices you have turned on are going to show up in here. In this case, I have the desktop audio, which is the speakers on my desktop. It's muted at the moment, so I don't hear myself. And below that is my current mic, which is the mic from the laptop. You can see it moving up and down when I'm talking. Generally, you can control this, like turn the volume up. You don't want it to get into the red. That's when it starts to peak and do all kinds of nasty things to your sounds. Somewhere in the yellow is fine. So right now it's perfect. Desktop audio, that's basically the sounds that are coming out of the desktop itself, like the beeps and the bops that you would hear. An example of desktop audio would be when I'm running a Google Hangout, like for a paint and chat. If I want the viewers to hear the participants, not just me, they can hear me because that's coming through the mic. But if I want the viewers to hear the participants in the Hangout, it's coming through the desktop. So I have to make sure this is unmuted. And when I do that, they'll be able to hear the participants, not just me, they'll hear the others as well. And this is where I control their volume. So it's pretty cool. When you're playing a game and recording it, you'll also have volume controls for that. The sounds of the game, for instance, are controlled with the desktop audio because the sounds are coming through your desktop. And if you're using a mic while you're talking while playing your game, that would be down here. You'd control that separately as well. So that's what this whole area is right here. This is your mixer. Over here we have scene transitions. Now, this is pretty cool. You can choose between different ways your scenes transition from one to the next. For example, let's say we're going to go from our introduction into our actual scene. You know, maybe the introduction is just this big screen with some music playing, and, you know, it's nothing going on. It's just, hey, welcome to the stream. We'll be starting soon. And it just plays music in the background. Maybe that's your intro scene. That would be over here as intro, and it would have a bunch of sources within it, like music and text or whatever. And when you're ready to transition and start the stream, your next scene might be called, let's call it the show. You'd call it the show. And to transition to that, you would click it. And you would have the option of transitioning. And your transitions are shown over here, and it'll give you all kinds of things. Like mine is on fade. In other words, the previous scene will fade into the next scene as soon as I'm ready to transition. That's how that works. So you get all kinds of choices here about how you transition, whether it's a fade or a cut, and how long it actually goes. This is in milliseconds, 250 milliseconds. So that gives you an idea of what that is. Pretty cool, I gotta say. And finally over here you have controls. Now this is where you choose when to start streaming or when to start recording. You'll see them right here. Right now I'm streaming, so the option reads stop streaming. When I click this, the stream will shut off and you guys won't see anymore. Normally it would say start streaming. And when I click that, it'll start streaming on whatever scene I'm currently in. When I'm done, I just hit stop. Now, if you're recording, say you're recording a video that you're going to upload to YouTube or upload to Twitch later, that's the next option. Start recording. And once you're recording, the option will turn to stop recording. Okay. And the next choices here is studio mode. I'll mention that in a second. Below that is your settings, and I'm not going to go into any settings in this discussion here. And finally, exit OBS entirely. So these are basically, literally, your controls for OBS. And folks, that's it. That is OBS. Set up your scenes, add sources to the scenes, and have control of your sounds, and control your transitions. And that's it, as my cat starts meowing. But anyway, down here is some little information about your stream or your recording, what's going on, if you got any dropped frames, and so on and so forth. Nothing, it's kind of technical stuff. You don't have to pay attention to that, actually. But yeah, this is basically OBS and how it works. Download it, run the wizard, and look at this video I just made here to understand the basics of how it works. You also have up here some things you could click on. If you click this one, this is pretty useful. Under File, if you click Show Recordings, now what this is, it's really useful. If you're recording a video that you intend to upload, in other words, you're not streaming, you're recording a video. As soon as you're done recording it, if you come up here under File and click Show Recordings, that will take you to wherever you're saving your videos. It just takes you right to it. That allows you to look at the video and just immediately access it and see what's going on with it. And move it around or open it up with, say, Power Director or something else. So it's a pretty useful little link there. Show your recordings. What else have we got here? Under Edit, blah, 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 blah. View, Source Collection. I'm not going to go into these. Your Profile, Tools. I will mention this. This is called Virtual Cam. This is something you add to OBS. Excuse me. This is something you download separately. OBS has a virtual camera, which allows you to broadcast in something like a Google Hangout or I can't think of the words. It's slipping my mind here. But it allows you to broadcast your OBS screen to something like Google Hangouts or any other kind of I can't think of the name of it. Like a Google Hangout. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember. But that's something you get after you get this. It's a separate download. Now, I'll make a video on that if you guys are interested in learning about it. Highly useful, and you definitely should get it. But again, I'm going to go into that separate. And then, of course, your help, which hopefully you won't have to look at. So that's it. Now, I will open up settings here real quick. And we're going to go into this in a separate video, but this is where you can get a little bit technical. This option right here, Stream, this is where you put your stream key. If you've done any live streaming in the past, you'll know what this does. If you stream on Twitch, you get your stream key from Twitch and you put it in here. Well, first you would choose the service, like this is Twitch, but there's also YouTube and other services as well that you could choose from. And you would put your stream key for that service down here. And your output settings, your audio settings, your video settings, hotkeys in advanced are not really useful if you're just getting started here. And general. So that's how this sets up. I can go into this with you guys at a later date, show you some of my settings. This is where if you wanted to broadcast in 1080p, this is where you'd do that. This is where you'd set it up. As you can see here, I'm broadcasting in, I believe that says 1080p right there, the second one. And the output as well, the output resolution is also 1080p. Now, if I was doing a game, I wouldn't want my output resolution to be 1080p, and probably the server that you're on would probably drop it anyway to 720. But if you're doing a video game or a PC game, you're probably going to drop this down to 720p just so you can have better graphics on your game and prevent a smoother game, a smoother video for those watching. But for everyday viewing or live streaming, like doing a paint and chat, I boost it all the way up to the top. Get those graphics all the way up to the top. And here's your frame rate where you choose it. Mine's at 30 for this type of video. That's where I'd want it. If I was doing a PC game, I'd probably knock this up to 60 FPS, especially with a shooter. But I'm not going to go into those details. You don't have to worry about it. Once you run the wizard, after installing this, it does all this stuff for you. All this stuff is set up for you. You don't have to do anything. And there's a pretty good chance that it's probably the best settings for you at that moment. So don't worry too much about this. Later on, when you gain experience with OBS, then you might want to go back and change some settings. I'll make a separate video on this as well and show you what settings I use for my various videos that I stream and make. So there you go. That is OBS. Again, here's where you get it. obsproject.com. Just do a search in Google, put in OBS Studio, and you'll get this link here. OBS Studio is what you want. And click it for your platform, Windows in my case. And there's some other interesting little thing here that you can look at, like features and things you can do. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That is OBS. That's it, folks. To start using it right away, that's it. Down the road, you'll probably want to mess with the settings. So you're going at optimum for your computer. But you don't need to do that. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see, if I wanted to add an image, I could name that image whatever I want. We're just going to, well, here's one right here. Let's add an existing one. It's called GM's Alcove Banner. In other words, I've used this in a separate scene somewhere in here, so it's already there. I'm going to add it, and there it is. By default, it's that big, and I could resize it. I will teach you one trick right now. Now, this is something you really don't need to know, but it's a trick I'm going to teach you right off the bat because it's extremely useful and the most useful thing you will use in OBS. Hold down the Alt key, and while you're holding it down, grab hold of one of these little corners or sides where there's a circle, and this is what happens. So instead of resizing your picture, it's actually shrinking the picture itself. See? Now, if I take my finger off the Alt key, it's going to keep this, and it's going to be resizing this. Now, an obvious use of this, besides with pictures, is with your camera. When you add your camera as a source, 9 times out of 10, it's probably too wide, and you've got all this dead space to the left and dead space to the right that you don't want there. And that's how useful this is. You're basically cropping the camera view down so that it's just showing the important parts of your webcam, your face, and maybe the outside of areas closest to you, but not all that wasted background. And then you can resize the entire image to whatever size you want by grabbing a corner. And that is done by holding down the Alt key and then grabbing one of these little circles, and there you go. You can do that. There's another way to do that, but that's a quick way to do it. So there you go. That's a little trick with OBS to use. And I just use it there resizing a picture. So let's get rid of that picture. Let's click on it and hit the minus key. Boom, it's gone. So we got a blank palette at the moment. So there you go. You can see how it works and how useful this really is for not only live streaming, but also making videos. And once your video is recorded and you click stop the recording, remember to come up to File, Show Recordings. It'll take you right to where your recordings are being stored on your computer. And by the way, it's in your settings that you actually choose where those files are saved, are recorded. Where was that be? Under video, output, straight. Is it video? No. Audio, output. Is it in here? Recording. Yeah. Recording path. So it's in settings that you actually choose the directory where you're actually going to save all your recordings once they're done. So that would be under output. But again, that's something you can learn on your own, or we'll go into it in a separate video. But you can control that. It's enough to know. So there you go, folks. That's OBS, how it works. It's really that simple. Go download it, install, run the wizard that comes with it. You're all set to go. All you got to know is what scenes are, how to add sources to a scene, and then transitioning between scenes. Like when you're ready to switch between a scene, you click transition. Let me show you this real quick, because this might be familiar to some of you. All the way over to the right, under Controls, I did skip one listing here, and it was this, Studio Mode. This is an optional view for you when you're using OBS, and this is what I use. Now, this is going to look funky because what's going to happen is you're not going to see one central picture in the middle. You're going to see two of them, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. There. Now, again, ignore this psychedelic stuff. Basically, what you're going to have is you're going to have a before, your work area, and you're going to have an after. This is what the viewers will see. This is useful when you're setting up your scenes. And before you're ready to transition to the next scene, say scene 2, or say the program's over and you want to transition to your ending scene, you can go to that scene. Like, let me try doing that. I could go to this scene, for instance, and it's not transitioning. The viewer isn't seeing that. But he will see it as soon as you click this button here, Transition. That allows you to manipulate this stuff before you transition it. So you're basically looking at two screens, a before and an after. This is what the viewer is seeing right now. This is what they're about to see as soon as you click Transition. And watch what happens when I click Transition. Boom. And there you go. That's what you're seeing now instead of the display that I was showing you guys. So let's get back to that. And there it is again. That's Studio Mode. And it's accessed over here on the far right under Controls. You've got your streaming button, start and stop, your recording, start and stop. Then you have Studio Mode. So you can use it single screened or go to Studio Mode and have two screens showing you the before and the after. So that's really useful. So I don't know what else to say. That's pretty much it. Really. It's that simple. So set up your scenes, add some sources to each scene, which is your pictures, music, text, whatever you want, videos, and then go to a different scene and do the same thing. Add some sources to it. And you're good to go. When you're all set, click on the introduction scene. Start your stream by clicking this button over here, or start your recording by clicking this button here. And there you go. You're all set. That's OBS in a nutshell. And if you guys like this video, let me know. And I will make some more videos. I'd like to, but I want to know if you guys really find this useful or not. And I'll go into details about everything from settings to setting up scene collections. See, as you can see here under scene collection, right here, you'll see I have a bunch of different collections of scenes. This is the one I use for paint and chats. It's made up of a bunch of different scenes that I could transition between, specifically for paint and chats. I have an intro. I have an actual paint and chat discussion scene. I have an intermission scene, and I have an ending scene, which I so often forget to click on or transition to during the paint and chats. It's become a joke. Here's my video gaming collection of scenes that I use that specifically for playing my PC games for you guys. So it's a different setup. And some things here for Call of Cthulhu and my D&D game sessions. They all have their own scenes that I've set up. Now, in this case, I'm using what I'm calling the demonstration scene collection, and that's made up of what you're currently looking at. If you look over here, you'll see I have scene, intro, scene 2, and scene 3. The only scene that has any content actually is this one, scene, which has only one source, a display capture. That's how I'm showing you guys what I'm looking at right now. I just added display capture as a source to this scene. Simple as that. And again, you can control the volumes and the mute and so on and so forth over here. So there you go, folks. I won't bother you too much longer now. This is the video about using OBS. And if you really like this and want to see more details about OBS, let me know. PM me or leave a message in the chat area. I will see it. And we'll go from there. If you guys want to see more on using OBS, simple as 1, 2, 3. Okay, folks, I will talk to you all again later. Take care and enjoy.